July 4, 2023, in Ohio, a pursuit unfolded involving a commercial truck driver, Hajarius Rose, the Circleville Police, and the Highway Patrol. Specifically, Rose was pulled over by the police because his truck lacked a mudguard. He stopped but sped off when he saw a gun pointed at him and called 911. Minutes later, he stopped and exited the vehicle only to find himself surrounded by a bunch of officers yelling orders. However, one order was much stronger than the others. This order was directed at Officer Ranman, who had just arrived with his K9 and immediately shouted commands at Rose. Before the patrol officers could blink, Speakman ran through the fields with the dog and unleashed it, feeling that Rose posed no threat. The K9 ran first towards the patrol officers before Speakman ordered it to attack the unarmed man. The patrol officers immediately shouted at Speakman to pull the dog away from Rose, but the officer didn't listen. Even with an officer restraining Rose, Speakman kept the dog's teeth on him. When they finally removed the animal, Rose was in a horrifying state. Speakman continued trying to justify his actions, but the patrol officers weren't fooled. When confronted for not following orders, Speakman silenced his camera, silencing law enforcement. Rose was taken to the hospital and later charged with failure to comply with an order. He hired a lawyer and is preparing for a massive lawsuit. As for Speakman, he was kicked out of the police department and the dog wasn't allowed to go with him. If you think this is the only time officers have attacked someone who was complying, wait until you hear about what happened to this unarmed man. But before we get to that, Officer Dennis Turner, pay attention, folks. Because here's something you don't see every day. In September 2019, Kay Roll, a 6-year-old first-grade student, was having a tantrum at school. During her fit, she kicked and hit a staff member. After taking the first grader to the principal's office, Lucius and Eamon Academy had the brilliant idea to call the police. Enter Orlando Police Officer Dennis Turner, who had been on the force for 23 years. Things started off on the wrong foot as he argued with the principal upon arrival. Turner handed plastic zip ties to his partner without having any idea of what was going on. While the officer tied her hands behind her back, Rose began to sob. Then, Turner walked the 6-year-old girl out of the office and paraded her through the school. As she screamed and pleaded, the officer ignored her pleas, lifted her, and closed the door. Officer Turner returned to talk to some upset teachers. Furthermore, he boasted about having arrested children before. The school thought she should return immediately. For the 6-year-old girl, they took her to the Juvenile Assessment Center, where she was charged with assault, booked, and even had a photo taken with a stool for a mugshot. When Roll's grandmother learned about what happened, she immediately echoed the story, and it spread like wildfire. It's understandable that the state immediately dropped charges against the 6-year-old, and her record was expunged. As for Officer Turner, he was harshly fired, and the department was sued for $100,000. Being fired for arresting a child is bad enough, but it doesn't compare at all to what Officer Rodriguez did to an unarmed man. Matthew Rodriguez, on the day of young Jack Juan Smith, didn't start well. We're talking about a 19-year-old who was in the Warren Police Department jail after being arrested for charges related to car theft and possession of weapons. However, his day was about to get considerably worse. Smith was in the fingerprinting room with Officer Matthew Rodriguez, waiting to be booked. It seemed like the two were exchanging normal words when suddenly, Rodriguez attacked the teenager and simply mercilessly beat him. Naturally, Smith suffered several injuries as a result of the attack. He didn't have any broken bones, but there was a head injury from the blows, trauma from the blunt force of being slammed into the pavement, and punches to the face that also caused head trauma. Moreover, it wasn't the first time the Warren police officer had been accused of using excessive force, but it would be the last. Rodriguez was summarily fired from the department and charged with misdemeanor assault and deprivation of rights. Additionally, Smith sued the department for the staggering sum of $50 million.
Took up those bills and now are there regarding the duty to intervene and the duty to go ahead and report. And in this case here, as you've indicated years ago, that might not have been.
Corny Brown and Christy Wilson, there are many things you can use a coin toss app for, but never guess what these officers used it for. In April 2018, Sarah Webb was speeding to work when she was pulled over by Roswell police officers Corny Brown and her partner Christy Wilson. Webb was apologetic and tried to explain that she was running late for work. The officer didn't want to hear a word of it.
Roswell Police Department, you know how fast you were just going, ma'am?
I'm so sorry, I'm late.
Go over 80 miles per hour on 92? No, ma'am. You have your driver's license and your insurance card?
Yeah, my insurance.
Turn off the car and pass me the keys, please. I'm having issues with my CAD. Can you please do an 8 and 10 check on the Georgia tag? As well as an 8 and 10 check on a Georgia driver's license.
Unable to believe what was happening, she had no idea that a coin had determined her fate. It was when the video went public 2 months after Webb realized she had been the target of a very cruel joke.
She's running late for work. I had to get up to 90 to catch her. What do you think? I mean, I don't have any speed detections at the same time, but...
No, but you can use the fact that you were going whatever speed and she went past you.
Mm-hmm.
It's on camera, so you're going to have a back speed. You're going to have the fact that you went 90 to catch up to it.
Both officers were ruthlessly fired from the police department, and charges against Webb were dropped. One good thing about body cameras is that they always capture officers saying and doing stupid things. Another great example is when Officer Bogard was caught saying more than shocking things. At the police station, they took Davis inside to charge and book him. The attack on the man was so brutal that when he appeared in court, his face was still battered and he couldn't walk. Davis suffered kidney failure and had a couple of broken ribs. A cell phone video of the attack went viral and the community was outraged. However, it wasn't just because of the excessive use of force, it was the shocking comments made by an officer through his body camera.
Injuries were so bad that he had to be rolled in on a wheelchair to go to court. During his court hearing on Friday, his family saw that his condition was bad and they cried out at the sight of him. The judge didn't show no kind of sympathy, no compassion at all, the presiding judge. He told them to refrain from crying. Timothy is still...
On the ground! You look down, bro. On the ground, bro. Stay on the ground. Don't turn over, bro. I'm you in the face.
I can't breathe.
Then maybe you shouldn't have fought like an asshole.
I can't breathe. You do that thing.
This is getting awkward now. Sure.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
I feel like I'm watching the Notebook.
This is really exhausting, actually. I don't know why I hit the button, I'll be honest. I need hope.
I'm a little aroused at this, Davis, just so you know.
Hey, drugs involved with him, we know.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Marco Burke, body cameras are meant to catch criminals in the act, but sometimes the criminals are the ones with the badge. That's precisely the case with Marco Burke, a police officer at Middle Tennessee State University. Just after midnight on May 10, 2018, Burke received the order to respond to a car accident involving a reckless driver. When Burke arrived, he found an abandoned vehicle. After a brief inspection of the vehicle, the officer returned to his car and reported that nothing unusual was happening.